Hello everyone, it's Shel C from PaperOcotilloStudio, and today I'm sharing with you my artist trading card for the Pick a Stick Challenge for May 2019. Pick a Stick Challenge is a Facebook group where we offer 3 challenges each month based on randomly drawn prompts that are one-word prompts. The ATC challenge has 3 steps and a color with a wild card that you can throw in, which I am going to do. The first thing I did, well, the first prompt is clay, and I wanted something sturdy to build my clay on, and so I'm using this wood piece that it was in a package from Michael's or something, and I needed to trim it down slightly to make it the right size. A artist trading card is 3.5 inches by 2.5 inches, which is the same size as a baseball card or a Pokemon card, those type of things. And so this thing was 3.25 inches, so I decided that I would make it 2.25 by 3.25 and then put a backing on it to make it the right size. So I did that, and then I put some gesso on it to seal the wood. And then I'm getting out my clay. I'm going to use paper clay, which is a self-drying clay that you just leave out to dry, and it's made out of paper pulp. And mine is getting a little bit dry, even though it's wrapped up in all kinds of tight things and trying to keep it nice. But the nice thing about paper clay is you can reconstitute it with water. So I took out a chunk and then I'm adding water to it and massaging it and kneading it and continuing to add water until it's pliable. And I break it into sections. Sometimes I squish it down onto the mat, spray some water on it, squish it more until it becomes something that I can work with. And this doesn't take very long, but I didn't leave it all in because you really need to see me kneading clay. I mean, is that fun? So then I have some different molds, and I'm kind of low on dried pieces, so I decided to just go ahead and make some of these molds with my paper clay. And all you do is just make a ball, push it in there, smooth it out, and that's it. You know, they're push molds. I think that maybe the flower one might be for fondant, maybe the flower and leaves. I'm not sure, but anyway, they're ones that I've purchased on Amazon at different times. And I don't have a whole lot of molds, but I did get this face one. This was something that Peg had, and I thought I needed a face one. So this is the first time I've actually used it, I think. But, you know, just pressing stuff into it. I don't know what I'm going to use yet. I don't know what I'm going to make on my ATC. I don't really have an idea, but I figured I'd make some of these things and let them dry in their molds. You can also kind of pull them out while they're wet, and you'll see me do that because I do end up using some of these, which is why I left them in, why I left the footage in. So I decide to start working on my ATC now. I've got enough of the stuff used up. The piece of wood had a couple little holes drilled into it at the top because it's for making like a flag banner type thing where there's a whole bunch of them in a package and you could decorate them and then hang them on a ribbon or something by threading it in and out of those holes, but I don't need the holes. So I just fill them up with some paper clay, which will dry, and then you'll never know there's holes there. And then I decide to start building onto the wood. I've done this once before. This is the second time I've done it. I think it was an Art Joy of Sharing live stream, and I built like a 6x6 piece by putting the paper clay onto the wood, and it sticks on its own. It doesn't come off, so that's kind of cool. You can build onto a piece of wood and make it very dimensional. And I decided to cut some of these rectangles. I have these little tiny cutters, and I have a roller, and I wasn't sure what I was doing, but then when I put one of the rectangles on there, I thought it kind of looked like brick. And so I decided to build up kind of a textured brick looking wall as my background. And it is very, very dimensional because, of course, you've got the wood, then you've got these pieces that are sticking out that are probably, I don't know, 1/8 of an inch maybe thick. And then I thought, oh, well, you know what's really cool is something that I like to see when I walk around in old cool, vintage, funky places is how nature and plants will take over. And, they will grow onto walls, they'll grow in between cracks, they'll even eventually crack man made structures. Nature is more powerful than man. We may think that we're the boss, but we're not. Eventually, the nature just takes back over. So I thought it'd be kind of fun to put one of these flowers and some of these leaves that I had put in the push molds onto this project and make it look as if there's some sort of a flowery weed thing growing onto or up the wall. Just, I don't know. That's what I came up with. Uh, but yeah, today is Mother's Day, so happy Mother's Day. Um, there's a flower for mothers. It's Mother's Day in the United States, I guess I should say. It's not everywhere. But so if you're a mom or a grandma or an aunt or a friend who takes care of children, then happy Mother's Day to you. So anyway, back to what I was doing. I just keep applying the clay to the wood. One thing that does happen if you don't let these things dry in the molds is that they can deform. I have a little, I have actually a set of silicone tipped tools, and I'm using one of them to just kind of help me. Um, I'm kind of like going around the edges and pressing the the clay down, kind of, or stretching it out a little bit so that it sticks. I'm not. I mean, it's easier for you to see what I'm doing than it is for you to understand when I speak about it. It's just kind of pressing it down on the edges and then smoothing it, and then I can also kind of take out pieces I don't need, like I just did there, or um, fix areas where the the piece has kind of went out of control. It's lost its shape. What I wished I would have done in hindsight is I wished I would have added a little bit of texture to the leaves where the veining should be, because it didn't really show up. Even though it's in the mold and I pressed it down into the molds, the veining didn't show up at the end. So then my final thing that I put on is like some little stem vines and curly cues, because that's the part that grows into the brick. It finds its way in. I have this plant downstairs in my living room that's sitting on a plant stand next to a window that has what are those things called? Vinyl blinds, the kind that you can open and shut with the little ropes. And that plant, I never open the window because it's on the side of the house that's way too hot if there's sun shining in. So I never open the blinds. And the plant has grown up in between and in and out, and created this whole trellis system on this blind. And if I ever want to take the blind down, I don't know how I'm going to do it, because the plant has completely taken over the blind and weaved itself in and out. And that's what these climbing type plants do. It's kind of funny. But if I ever want to clean that blind, I'm going to have trouble, because I don't know how I'm going to get that plant out of it. I guess I could start at the top and weave everything out and in and out until I hopefully don't damage the plant very much and can get it all removed from the blind. But I don't know, it's kind of cool. It's looking for light. It's searching out a path to the light, and I'm not going to stop it from doing that. So I'm just kind of finishing up, touching up, using up the last of the clay in the mold here. And I'm pretty much done with the clay portion of this ATC. That part probably took the longest. And I set it aside to dry, let it dry naturally for overnight, I guess. No, I came back at the end of the day, I think, and colored it. So the next step was staple, and I didn't think I could really staple something to a piece of wood with clay on it. So I decided to use the wild card, which is pearls. And I have some alcohol ink, just 3 colors. At Creativation this year, they came out with a whole set of pearl alcohol inks. And so I decided to use the pearls alcohol inks as my coloration for this. And that the wild card is pearls, of course. So I replaced staple with that. Then I put some white gesso over my project over the clay because clay is very porous, and so I wanted to seal it up so it wouldn't just keep soaking in all the ink. And then I thought, I wonder what it looks like, what this stuff looks like over black gesso, because that would be kind of cool if it stands out on black gesso. But I wasn't sure because alcohol ink often is translucent and it wouldn't even show on the black. So I put some black gesso and some white gesso onto my paper that I had underneath to just catch drips and things. And it actually does show up over the black gesso. So I thought that was pretty cool, and I decided to use black gesso instead. So I painted my whole project over with black gesso and down into all the cracks and crevices around the edge, completely covered it with black and dried that with my heat tool to get it nice and dry. And that was a good decision. I like the way it turned out. I wasn't sure, but it worked great. So then I start coloring. Now the color for the challenge is violet, and this alcohol ink is a little bit more magenta, but it could be red violet. I only have 3 colors, so this is what you're going to get. Close enough to like a red violet, which is, almost a pink color. Sometimes violet can be more on the purple edge, just depending on who blended it. But I use that, I think it's called Intrigue. These all have very interesting names, and I'll be sure to link them in the description box below the video so that you can find out what they are if you'd like to order some. I had to try it, and I ordered a red, a yellow, and a blue. So then I mixed the blue and the yellow together to make green. This is my alcohol ink palette. You can paint with alcohol ink by using alcohol as the water. The water. You pick it up. You pick it up with a brush. So I'm kind of doing that with a brush. I'm cleaning my brush with alcohol. This does dry out brushes, so just kind of designate some of your brushes or one brush for that. You don't really want to ruin all your brushes, but I put the green blend that I made with the blue and yellow and put that on the leaves and stems, and then the yellow on excuse me, on the flower, and then I put a drop of that intrigue color in the middle, and it just spread out perfectly through the texture. So I was happy with that. Like, oh, that worked really great. It would have been cool if I had some other colors to add, but I didn't, and this was satisfactory. So I feel like I have used violet and I've used pearls, and then I just added a little bit more kind of a purpley color. I think it's called mulberry or something from my palette onto it just to try to make it a little bit more purple, but it didn't really make that much of a difference because alcohol ink on its own is translucent. It doesn't really work over the top of black. So it didn't stand up to the black gesso. Didn't make that much of a difference. So then I glued this onto a piece of glossy black cardstock that's been cut 3.5 by 2.5, the correct size. And now my last step is octagon, and I'm just like, what in the heck am I going to do octagon? Seriously, I mean, I don't even know. It just didn't seem to fit, but it ended up working out. I took a piece of cards of heavyweight watercolor paper and made myself a little octagon template because an octagon is actually, first of all, hard to cut, and second of all, hard to draw. It's really a square with the corners cut off, but it doesn't seem to want to be even. So I cut one and I thought, that one's meh. So I decided to cut another one and just try to get it, as even as possible into this octagon shape. And then I used my black Posca pen, which I'd already used just kind of to add a little bit of detail to the flower. And I just traced around the octagon in the background over the blue background, and it looks like cobblestones, kind of like the wall behind the brick is cobblestones. And you may say to yourself, why did she paint the bricks a red color and paint the background a blue color? I just wanted contrast. There's no reason. It could have all been one color, but I wanted to use the blue. That's why. So I did. But it actually turned out looking pretty interesting. So I was happy that that prompt was there, although I was a little bit stumped by it for a few minutes. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please remember to give it a thumbs up, leave me a comment or question below, subscribe if you haven't already, share if you want to, and if this is your last video for the day, could you click on someone else's video and before you click on mine. I know there's a vlog that talks about that if you want to know why. So I put the word grateful on there because it's Mother's Day and I'm grateful for all the mothers, including my own. And that is it for me. Thanks. Bye-bye.